I really did want to talk more about Geometry Dash, but I'm making this one exception because it's something I feel really strongly about. There has been a recent controversy around the results of the Crystal Gauntlet contest in Geometry Dash, and I want to take some time to explain and defend why the contest was unfair towards creators of art levels. Keep in mind that I will try to keep this as reasonable as possible, and if you don't agree with me, I totally respect that. Before we begin, I want to tell you some straight up disclaimers. Do I believe that the levels that won are bad? No. Do I believe that the contest was rigged? No. Do I believe that RobTop's reasonings behind disqualifying art levels aren't valid? No. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Imagine this, you read a set of rules and you follow all those rules down to the letter. You work hard, you make sure that it perfectly follows the rules given to you. But when you submit it, it turns out that you've been disqualified for a reason you didn't even know about. This is exactly what happened to art levels like Crystal Realm and Mayan Jewels in the Crystal Gauntlet contest of Geometry Dash. This whole controversy is about how art levels were disqualified from entering the gauntlet without any prior warning. According to Vibrant, RobTop said that art levels would not be picked because it was too hard for noobs to tell where they were going. This is a perfectly acceptable reason, but many people were talking about how this should have been a very helpful guideline to have in the actual Crystal Gauntlet contest rules. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. For the Crystal Gauntlet contest, there was bias towards traditional gameplay and design levels as opposed to art levels in the contest. Just so I won't be destroyed in the comment section about abusing the word bias, let's look at the definition of the word bias. The definition of bias is prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared to another, usually in a way that's considered to be unfair. Let me explain why I believe that the contest was biased against art levels. Here's a clip of Etzer explaining the Crystal Gauntlet rules.
You should make sure that you are utilizing the Crystal Gauntlet theme. Second, make sure that the level is 5 to 7 stars in difficulty. Third, make sure that the level is either long or extra long. And finally, the level cannot be above 80,000 objects.
You know what though, the video also says to read the description for more, so let's check out that description. We discovered that there has been some conflicts of interest between the description and the disqualification of the art levels. The description says, you have a lot of freedom, but there should be some art and or design that makes a player think of crystals. Colors are important. Yes, it actually says that there should be art. From the sound of it, you would have thought that the contest was biased in favor of art levels, but instead those art levels went on to be disqualified. The unfairness part of the word bias begins at the very beginning, because most creators were under the impression that all the levels would be judged equally, and assumed that effect, art, and design levels would be on the same playing field. The fact that RobTop straight up disqualified some art entries without any prior warning showed that they weren't on the same playing field after all. The next part about the word bias is the part where someone's being in favor of a certain group over another. We see in the description of the result video that RobTop couldn't see art levels fitting into the gauntlet because they have a lot of different art obstacles and it would make it hard for noobs to see where to go. I do consider this a good bias because it tries to make sure everyone is included, but nonetheless, it's still a bias. Although RobTop did this for the sake of the game, it would have been helpful to know this from the beginning, rather than have creators work tirelessly on art levels that were doomed right from the start. Although I got to share my opinion, let's see the other side of the coin so those who don't agree with me can have a chance to be heard. Maybe even the judges of the contest didn't know any better, and they too also believe that all the levels would be judged equally. So to be fair with the judges, it probably wasn't even their own fault. As for art levels, it could be argued that it's already common knowledge that people should have known that art levels typically aren't going to be preferred. These are very valid arguments, and I still do respect people who believe this. But at the end of the day, decent contenders in the contest that created art levels didn't make it into the gauntlet, mostly for the sake of them being art levels. But once again, what's done is done, and remember, this isn't a rant. This is an observation and some defense to back up the case against art levels in the Crystal Gauntlet contest. But I do want to know your opinion. Do you think it would have been fair to mention in the rules that art levels aren't recommended? Or do you think that creators should have already known these preferences beforehand? So with that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed watching.